begin telling someone that their world is not the only one? Now, Lee Markle asks this question in her book, Raven Song. So what's the answer? I mean, where do you begin telling someone their world is not the only one? Maybe we start here. To bleed betrayal. She fought to bring her son into her warm embrace, not unlike any of her children. How she treasured him. She sang melodies in the breeze through canopies of leaves, wrapping him in hand-woven love, fed him from her own fields, and delighted in him as he grew. She embraced his bare feet with her red earth, held him strong high in the branches of the mango tree, rocked him gently to the murmur of grasshoppers and frogs. And he trusted her, imagining no other life without her. She raised him in the breath of her stories, danced through him in the rhythm of her drum, watched over him in the stars of the Southern Cross. And she was a part of him, and he a part of her. She wept over him in the midst of the rainy season, particularly on the night he had to leave. She always wept when she lost a child. War, the darkest thread in the flaw of the human condition, sent many of her babies to faraway lands. Her hope in a distant reunion kept her tears from washing everything away. And as he entered the hollow tin bird with stiff wings, he felt a piece of himself rip away and stay with the only mother he ever knew. He breathed deeply the humidity of her warm embrace, promising his mother an imminent return with money, education, gifts, new ideas, and an abundance that would spill over. He promised to carry home a solution that would bring his mother peace, make her strong, and redeem her efforts. What she did not know was that she simply traded her child from one war to another. Disconnected, time faded his mother's memories, how she cared for him, raised him, how the rhythm of the drum fell in step with the beating of his heart. In this unfamiliar land, a new woman embraced him, but her touch was cold. She spoke of many things: money, cars, sex, drugs, power. And this faded his promise. Time stole and replaced, untied and unleashed, an acceptance of things unimagined. And now he lays upon a foreign woman who never cared to know him. Her ways seemed so alluring and reminded him of his mother, but she had no heart. He traded his promise for a lie dressed in green paper. The violence is inevitable, predictable, more real than the power he sought. His blood spills out and turns the soil red. Red on this black earth. And in this moment, this too late moment, he realizes he bleeds betrayal. Mother Africa still waits, for she knows not the fate of her sons. Now, I wrote this poem on a night when two worlds collided. For me, the collide happened because of willingness. I was willing to get out of my comfort zone, willing to move, willing to act, willing to say yes to driving 4 Sudanese young men to a gravesite. Now, I didn't know these gentlemen very well, but they needed a ride. It was the 1-year anniversary of their 17-year-old cousin's murder. He was fatally stabbed on the streets of Winnipeg 5 years after arriving here. And these boys, they know murder. They were born into civil war and live to tell haunting stories of survival. And they understand death on a level I can't. But I began to realize that they had not experienced this same kind of robbery in their new home until their cousin's death. Now, what worlds colliding are we talking about exactly here? One of them is mine. This is a picture of me at graduation. I was in high school when my passion for social justice was really born, and it was born of a total humiliating failure. I was running for student council president, fully lost, actually went up to go do my speech in front of the school and was booed, worst feeling ever. But that created a cool opportunity because I had a teacher who really believed in me, and she was like, you can create whatever position you want on student council. And so I decided to create a humanitarian rep position, and that opened my whole world. This is kind of a typical house in the neighborhood that I lived in. And this is kind of like what my neighborhood looked like. Everybody's house looks pretty much the same. You don't really talk to anybody. Everybody looks pretty much the same as you. People drive into their garages, maybe a wave if you're lucky. So all in all, I was an all-around sheltered little white girl. All of this changed when I intentionally moved from the suburbs to the heart of downtown Winnipeg. And living downtown exposed me to opportunities I would have never had in my childhood suburb. Opportunities like building friendships with refugee youth transitioning here. And as these friendships grew, I began to see and understand the serious obstacles facing new Canadians in this city, and our failure as a collective to support them. The other world, Matoire's. Now, I can't really tell you about Matoire's world, because only he can do that. But I can tell you how my relationship with him and learning from him changed me. Matoire is one of the 4 new Canadian youth in the car. He's South Sudanese, a refugee in his early 20s now. He's been living in Winnipeg for about 8 years and has become a very dear friend of mine. And over time, Matoire and I developed trust in one another. And with the trust came stories. Stories when war came to Sudan, bringing with it guns, landmines, aerial bombings, and death. The escalating war forced Matoire's parents to send him to live with his uncle in Kenya after being named a future child soldier along with many other boys in his community. When Matoire's uncle got the opportunity to come to Canada, Matoire joined him, but left his parents, family, and friends in the uncertainty of life in Sudan. And as a refugee, Matoire was not given the choice to leave his family and home behind. War and genocide made that choice for him. He could not go home. He had to make a new home. And that place would be called Winnipeg. As we drove, I recalled the stories Matoire shared with me about the poverty and isolation of settling here. He said he was confused by Canadian culture and thought he would fit in right away. He was beyond disappointed when he realized he didn't fit in at all. Isolated and confused, it didn't take long before this vulnerability was exploited. And when Matoire entered my life, the street had stolen so much from him. He was tangled in a world he longed to get out of, but just kept pulling him back in. He used alcohol and drugs as a form of pain management to dull the things he had seen and done. He told me that no matter what he seemed to do, he could never achieve what he desired most, to fit in. And when you can't fit, you rage. Desensitized by war back home and the images on TV here, violence became a comfortable way to get what was needed and to claim perceived ownership over things. The survival skills taught from the conflict in Africa spill onto our city streets, making it much harder to trick ourselves into thinking that what's happening an ocean away doesn't really affect us. It was the process of watching his friends and family become enslaved by the court system and revolving jail doors that motivated Matoire to think about changing his life in his new home. And it's this violence that has us driving to a cemetery. By the time we got to the gravesite, the gates were locked and we weren't able to visit the burial spot. It seemed like too profound a moment to just get back in the car and drive away. So we joined hands in a circle. We prayed. We gave each other the permission to silently let tears fall. I didn't have the privilege to know the young man who lay in the ground next to us, but I felt the searing pain and loss of his family. I began to realize that I had witnessed a defining moment in the transitioning experience of these young newcomers, and it motivated me to start asking questions I had never thought to ask. Are we effectively helping refugees find their place in their new home? Did refugees just survive war and genocide to die on our soil? Will we let them bleed? I find myself wondering if refugees are just being relocated from one war to another under the guise of a better life. From bullets and bombs back home to being murdered, lured by gangs, and numbed by drugs and alcohol here. Have we become refugees in our own society in the pursuit of unattainable goals with the intoxication of pleasure and self-serving desires? Our society has crossed value borders, displacing those who choose to put people first and personal gain last. It seems that the isolation and splintering of community required to drive this all-consuming, ravenous beast of more that we've been led to believe will bring about contentment and a worthwhile life can actually lead to a perfect storm for all people, including newcomers. This is not their culture. It's ours that breeds this kind of dysfunction. We've traded human relationships, which are messy and sometimes painful, for convenience and money. We've sped up the pace of life so fast that I wonder how long our endurance will last. Most days, I feel like I can barely keep up, and I know I'm just getting started, and that thought makes me more tired, actually. The transition process of newcomers holds a mirror up to our culture and shows us the depth of our brokenness. It's not about building the capacity of jails. It's about building the capacity of our relationships that bring about change. It's not about labels. It's about changing our language to recognize the potential in people, going from youth at risk to youth at promise. It's about community and relationships realized through friendships, mentorship, volunteerism, and engaged dialogue. Because truly, change happens in the context of relationship. Our lives have changed, Matoire's and mine, through the support of one another and other rich relationships in our lives. Matoire is working in the food and hospitality industry and has been for several years, being promoted and viewed as a leader in his workplace. He lives in his own beautiful apartment, completing a bachelor's degree in business. He works with youth in his community and church to help talk about some of these really sensitive issues that are going on in our city. And his capacity to overcome has inspired me and changed the way that I see and experience the world. Matoire's story has influenced mine by fueling my commitment to positively impacting the lives of children and families at home and globally. And that's why I'm currently working with World Vision Canada. So World Vision is a Christian relief, development, and advocacy organization that's dedicated to working with children, families, and communities to overcome poverty and injustice in almost 100 countries around the world, regardless of race, religion, gender, or ethnicity. And I work in the Student and Youth Engagement Department, helping to ignite and mobilize grassroots change through youth, just like you guys, to overcome poverty and injustice. So a lot of people kind of attribute the things that I've said today as youthful idealism. But this is not idealism. I believe that this is what it means to be fully human, and we've forgotten that along the way. But it's okay, because life has this beautiful way of reminding us what's important. And I believe that that moment is before us right now. But just in case we need a reminder about this moment in the future, everybody turn to somebody that you're sitting beside. Reach out your right hand and pinch them. I hope you're not sitting by a teacher. That could be awkward. Okay. It sounds like people actually went through with it. I'm wondering if anybody hesitated. Was there a hesitation? No? Did anybody experience a heart flutter and a stomach pop all at the same time? I did when I tried to pinch a stranger. Hello, guys. And that feeling right there, that feeling is what our humanity feels like. And it's important to remember that when we're interacting with other people. It can be hard to overlook this feeling in the bustle of daily life. But if you ever need reminding, just reach out and pinch someone. Thank you.